We're missing somebody.
You need a microphone.
I got one. You can have mine.
Is old Neil coming?
I'm just on a text.
Neither
He
do
said-
I.
I don't know if he'll be there. 5 o'clock he's gonna be late on this, Harry said. That was yesterday, he said.
Okay, well, welcome everybody to the Wednesday, June 16th, 2021 Selectmen's Meeting. We're here, only order of business is discuss with the consulting treasurer. So, I guess you're on.
I'm here. Thank you for having me. Just wanted to go over some of the things that we've been doing so far.
Maybe you could just introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Sarah Hunter, and I'm the acting consultant. Our firm is Mass Munifin, and we've been here for a few months now. Definitely enjoying it, getting to know everybody. It's a pleasure working here. We're here one day a week, but throughout the week we do answer any phone calls or text messages or emails that we get to help with certain questions that come through. I have a staff that there's typically one person right now that comes in with me who does some of the entries into the cash book, verifying the cash book, things like that. We had staff coming in earlier. We had 2 others that were here who were doing some scanning, some entries of bank statements and things like that, just to try and get caught up for what they have. So right now, the cash book entries are up to date as far as putting them into the Excel spreadsheet. Our turnovers, we are into May. We're not through May. We last week and this week, we had some things we had to work on instead of the entries into the turnovers. But hopefully by next week, we'll be back up to June and up to date. Ellen and I have been working on the accounts receivable because we'd like to close out the books. We are currently through January, but we've been finding some discrepancies that we're just trying to clean up as we go. There's been small variances. We're trying to clean them up as we go. And as far as the cash recon between the cash book and the bank statements, we're in December and January. But we are reconciled at that point. But in the meantime, as I mentioned, we have people here doing other things to move us forward, which is entering bank statements, which we are through May. We have entered all the bank statement balances for each of the accounts in the cash book. Currently, we're through April of matching cash book and the Vadar system. So these are kind of like prep things, so when we get to the actual cash book reconciliation, it doesn't take us the full amount of time because all this prep work is being done. And we're working towards having the books closed by September 30th, preferably earlier, but that's kind of being on the conservative side, which is September 30th, which would have the statement of indebtedness, the treasurer's year in cash, and the accounts receivable reconciled. Again, very conservative, hoping to get that done sooner rather than later, but that's the piece we'd like to be at. Do you guys have any questions?
Any questions? Jason?
I don't have any questions, but I do want to say thank you for all that you've done.
Thank you.
Also for giving Michelle the guidance that she needs to become better at what she does. I know Ellen speaks very highly of you, and I think I personally appreciate the fact that you've been very considerate of our budgetary situation. So.
Yeah, when I first came on, I appreciate that because I'm aware of the situation you're under. So we're trying to definitely choose wisely when we come in, where we're going to be. Michelle's been and Ellen have been fantastic. You guys have a great crew here. They absorb a lot, and we all work very well together. A few things I am concerned about is the office hours. Michelle, right now, she has a lot of hours that she's working, but also open to the public. Now, a big concern to me is watching that there's employees, there's retirees, there's sensitive material that has to happen that shouldn't be on a person's desk, and she doesn't have any other space to do. So ideally, it would be nice to see if she could have some quiet time, either shut down the office for 1 hour every day to get that stuff. It really should not be out and about. Again, if a retiree or somebody comes in and they have a question, an employee, that's HIPAA violations. You need to be very, very careful, and there's nowhere in here for her to be pulled away. She can't be pulled out of the tax collector's office, and if you have taxpayers in there, working with open enrollment right now with health insurance and trying to have that type of stuff out, it's just my recommendation. She needs the quiet time, uninterrupted. Again, it's sensitive as making sure you're entering the information, changing the rates accurately. So just take into consideration, maybe let's talk about how that could happen without impacting the taxpayers, as well as not impacting the other staff that need to do turnovers. But I think if something's set up, I found if something's set up ahead of time, you can have retirees and employees make appointments if they need to come in and meet. If there's somebody has a baby or there's a death in the family, those are things that are sensitive. She does run to the bank and things like that when the office. So the staff is good, but I think it's really tight with the expectations that are going on there. She has a lot on her plate. And I know that she went from 16 hours to 30 hours, and then she's about 36 to 38, and she's doing a good job, but there is a lot on her plate.
Would you suggest at the end of the day, maybe an hour at the end of the day, rather than at the beginning of the day?
If you were to choose, an end of the day probably would work better than the beginning of the day, or right in the middle of the day, whichever, because again, you want people to be able to come in and make the appointment. So it would be flexible, but either the middle of the day or the end of the day. Or one day, whichever you think would be best fit the town.
You mean, what do you mean by one day?
Like one day, take 2 or 3 hours in one day to block it off, or 1 hour every day at some point throughout the week.
All set, Jason?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes, I have a few things you can expect, all right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Lots of questions. I'm always trying to, you answered many of them. As far as I know that when you arrived here, we were only up to September, so a lot of progress has obviously been made, which is excellent. Is there any type of a revenue report that could be produced just up to a certain date, even up to April? So you could kind of see how it's tracking?
Yep, we could run some revenue reports. I'll have to check with Ellen to see where she has her posting, because there's 2 postings. There's one, the treasurer's side, where we post it,
Right.
and then Ellen takes it and she verifies on the accounting side that the deposits and all those things match based off of them. So I'd have to check with her at what point and she is in the turnover process, and be able to get you a revenue report up to then.
Oh, okay, that would be
Okay.
great to see. And
Sure.
if we're going to wait till September 30th, we should probably notify the auditors of this, just to say, no point in setting aside time in July, right? We don't want them in here then.
Do they typically come in July?
We do every year. It's an every year thing, so yeah.
Okay.
They show up sometime during July or August and start. But
So I'm not, like, if that's something that your town typically does, I could possibly speak to them to see and explain to where we're at, and see if something they can start,
okay.
start the audit, preferably, if that's okay with you, if you don't mind me
Yep, that's
reaching out and
fine.
ask them.
Not at all, that's fine.
Okay.
So I like the idea of the privacy, because I know in this town, it's like everybody behind you is listening in on everything. So if
Yeah.
somebody wants to discuss privately even their payment options on a tax bill or something that they're maybe trying to work on, I like the idea of a midday closed for walk-in. Do you think that would work, closed for walk-in, and that way, if she wanted to make a couple of little appointments, she could, or if she just needed that hour to do stuff, she could do that as well.
Yeah, I would have it closed, unless by appointment, if people,
Right, that's what I
yes.
mean. Yeah,
Yep, that's
closed to walk-ins by
exactly.
appointment only, it's like 12 to 1, something that people could really remember, 12 to
Right.
1:30 midday. That way, if employees are on their lunch break, they can pop over.
Yep, but I would just recommend that they let her know ahead of time, so.
Yes, by appointment.
Yep, that
Right.
even employees, yeah, that would be, I think that would work out well.
Right, I mean, like, I know that, I'm trying to think of the pharmacy that does it, Rite Aid Pharmacy, their pharmacy's closed 12 to 1 every day.
Yep.
And everybody knows that, so they know. Don't go to the pharmacy between 12 and 1. So I think midday is good, because that way people want to get in the morning can get there. People trying to hit the end of the day. and the midday. If it gets known and gets a habit, I think it'd be easy. So there were a few items that were voted at our annual town meeting. I think I kind of spoke to you a little bit about it. It sounds like the only two items that in the capital list that would need some attention would be the senior van, because it's a one-time purchase, it's a big purchase. I know that Nisha in the Council on Aging office has worked on it a lot. Just that usually we'd have a financial director or somebody look over before we just go, hey, go get this.
Right.
You know, so that is a one-time thing, so that would be good. And I spoke to the superintendent of water and sewer, and they are doing that bonding thing, and he has not done that before.
Okay.
So he knows that you're here on Wednesday, so I think he's gonna work out popping in on you to just
Okay.
talk about that, because probably we won't have somebody on board in time necessarily for that.
Just to start the ball rolling.
Right, to
Yep.
start the ball rolling, because they'll
Yep.
want to do that in the nice weather, I would assume.
So just to let you know, so procurement-wise, I don't do procurement.
Right.
But if you can send, I know we discussed, if you can send me those items, like
Well,
the.
Nisha could, yes, if this,
Yeah, that would
if
be
it's all right
great.
with this board members here, that, I think that would be awesome. to
So
get a
between the
check on
water and the
Is-
van, and if I can look
Yeah,
at those and
Colin
see.
Stokes was, I think, is going to come in and see you, because
Okay.
I don't have any of that information except what we voted, you
Okay.
know, at the town meeting.
Which I can get that vote, so I'll start
Yep,
with those.
Catherine has that, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you could send me the vote, that would be great.
The water and sewer bond vote,
I'll find it. Okay.
yeah. It was like this long. And so I looked, you know, I've been trying to track how we're doing, and you've done very well, thank you, helping us manage our deficit spending. I'm imagining that May and June are going to be kind of busy because of the end of the year.
Yes, typically June will be busier than May.
That's what I was thinking.
But I've been trying to track how much we're doing. We're trying to keep it to the one day with the two of us here. I have not been charging for any emails, phone calls throughout the week, texts. I don't mind helping during those times. And then July might pick up a little bit more, only because depending on your budget, we'll see how much time and money is for June. And then July will pick up a little bit more, because we'll really want to amp that up, especially if I speak to the auditors and, you know, it looks like they can fit us in July or August. I'll try and get some of those figures for them.
Right, so starting July, we have a new budget year, so we have just 75,000 set aside for the unfilled treasurer position. So I don't want to put you on the spot, because I know you negotiated a contract, but it would be nice if we could cap it so that it fits into that salary, so that we don't have a deficit rolling into next year. I mean, I think
Okay.
Ellen is going to be able to cover this year.
Okay.
I think she's been pretty much on top of this, watching it.
Yeah,
So-
she's been great.
Yeah, so I think, and it's not like we've never had a deficit. One year it's snow and ice, you know.
Right.
This year it's finance and fire.
Okay.
The two, no, I'm not going to say anything more.
So I'll work with
Yeah.
Ellen then to just
Yeah.
make sure that we're very conscious of where we're at for
Right,
the
she-
end of this fiscal year.
Yeah, she's kind of projected a higher deficit
Okay.
than we're at now, which I think is good. I like that idea. And so I think it's just carefully minding the store and trying not to go to the maximum amount of that contract, because then we might potentially run into a little bit of a problem.
Okay.
But for next year, it would be good if we could have it up to $1,500 a week, because I believe that fits into the $75,000
Okay.
salary. But I mean, if it means we're going to start falling all the way behind, you're the expert, so you're going to have to kind of take a look-see and let us know.
Yeah. And we definitely want to make sure that whomever steps in, that we're up to date moving forward. It's an easy transition, so they understand the chart of accounts. They have to worry about those types of things, not the catch-up. So we'll make sure that when they come in, it's clean and up to date.
That would be my thought. So I'm wondering, like, we have postings for both our town administrator and our treasurer. So I don't know, the town administrator will be a search committee. The treasurer, if we don't hire the town administrator first, would be on us.
Yeah, typically, yes.
Yes. So Do you have any feeling one way or the other to us as a person from the outside looking in?
The only thing I recommend is that they have municipal experience. That is,
The treasurer?
the treasurer, they might have a finance background, and treasurer experience in other formats, but I strongly recommend they have municipal experience. It preferably have, the certifications for a treasurer and collector. Those are two key pieces.
Okay. And so then we would have the treasurer and the assistant treasurer, we'd be pretty covered
Yes.
at that point. But
Yes,
right
because
now, we're
Michelle's
not.
been, she's learned a lot with the Vadar side for the tax collector. She's really moved along well. So she'll be able to help the transition if the person may not know Vadar. And then if you can get training put aside for the person, that's key as well for training in Vadar. Because if we're going to be caught up, the last thing you want to do is have somebody come in and do some data entries that would mess up the books.
So do we need to revise your contract to reflect, like, the new maximum, or? You've been doing
I think my max was actually 2,000 if I'm not per week.
$2,500.
Yeah, so I think if it's at $1,500, then it's below what my,
Correct.
so I don't think we need to change that. I mean, we can do an amendment if you want to drop it down to the 1,500, that's fine. We can just type up an amendment, and then we can sign that amendment dated today.
Okay, and you feel that that could work because you've done a lot of the legwork this year?
Yes.
Okay, that was my real question, is will this work? I don't want us to fall behind again.
So, let me go back to that. Let me look tonight, and I'll
you.
email you just to verify, and I'll talk again with Ellen to see just to make sure we're both on the same page of where we're going to be in the next few weeks, to close out the year, and if you want me to push to that. As of July 1st, I think the 1,500 would be fine.
That's what I'm shooting for.
Okay, yes, as long as it's the July 1st, yes.
Right, because that's when we start our new budget year.
Yep.
And that's how much we've So, I had one last question, now it's escaping me. Yeah, on the tax side, the collection of taxes and the taxes that maybe haven't been paid, are you handling that, cooking that, or is Michelle doing the taxes?
Michelle is doing the taxes
Okay.
we're working together. We actually had a discussion about getting the demands out soon, but she's been handling most of that. I've been doing most of the treasury side of it.
Okay, so when you say the demand, you mean the actual bills, right?
The demand bills, the late ones
Oh,
that
the
haven't
late
been
bills.
paid.
Okay.
Yes.
Right,
Yep.
okay, because I was speaking to one of our older, we've had three finance directors, one still in the area, Greg LeBrack, and he just said that typically he would try to work out some kind of payment plan, see if they could get people to start paying something on it,
Yeah.
and then go from there, and most of the residents were very good about doing that.
So there's some Mass General laws that really give us a crunch of time
Yep.
of when we can collect, and
Yep.
we should be putting things into tax title because
Correct.
we only have so many years to do that.
Yes.
I typically don't go into payment plans until we get into the tax title
Okay.
stage, just to protect the town, because if we don't do it within that time frame, we lose the
Correct.
right. So I prefer to go forward with the tax title, be in communication. The biggest thing is you want to communicate. We're here to make sure that these people stay in their homes. We want to help them.
Yeah.
I've sat down with people who've actually had to do a plan with them, a budgeting plan for their whole, their whole life. You know what I mean? Like their payments.
Yeah.
So, I would prefer to move it into tax title to secure it for the
Right.
town,
Yes.
and then get them into payment plans.
Right, and so I think we use that KP law for that tax title, because they have their own division there, but that's what I'm trying to sort out. Are you doing that, or is Michelle doing that, or are you doing it kind of together?
So we're doing it together.
Okay.
We're
Thank
going to
you.
teach, I'm going to show her how to bring them into tax title.
Okay,
I typically have a lawyer involved, and it saves believe it or not, that saves the town time and money because there are certain things to make sure that they're not in bankruptcy, to make sure that all of the document is accurate, because the worst thing you want to do is to have the taking and have it be invalid for some small reason.
Right.
So then you have to do the whole process over again. So it
Okay.
does save, and they're, typically the tax title attorneys, that's all they do. So they're a lot faster at it, and even though price per dollar is there, it's more, they get more done in a shorter period of time. And they ensure that it's valid taking.
So, okay, but if if KP has a tax title attorney, then they just do it.
I don't know who I haven't seen a tax
KP
title
Law,
attorney.
they have a tax, I believe so. I mean, I would just check. I mean,
Okay.
I could ask Greg LeBrecq and he could tell us too, but.
I know KP Law has it. I know that
Yeah.
Capola and Capola does as well.
Yep. So
Those are
we
two
have we have a
things.
budget for KP Law.
Oh, okay.
That's
Okay.
what I'm saying. We have like.
So you have
75
the legal budget?
Yes.
Okay, I misunderstood, I apologize.
No, that's all right. That's all right. So that should work fine then. Okay, I mean, this is pretty good news where you are.
We're trying, we're getting there. It's time, but again, they're great to work with. I feel like we all work well together. It's been a pleasure working here, so,
They say the same about you.
yeah, it's great. It's,
Everybody here says the same about you.
and they all have been wonderful to work with, so.
So congratulations, because not everybody will say that about a consultant that comes in to start telling you how to do things. So
Yeah,
you've
well, it's
obviously
easy when you
done a
love
good
what you
job.
do, honestly.
Yeah.
It makes it easier, so.
Great. Well, thank you. So then you just have the two things, the van and the thing, and that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay.
Dan?
Yes, just, when the auditors were in here, there was a variance, I think, that was mentioned, about 148,000. Do you have any significant variances within the cash accounts that are being reconciled? Are there any?
I noticed that in your payroll and accounts receivable. I've been able to identify a lot of them, that we can, it's an in and an out for some of them, but there still are quite a bit of big variance between payroll and as well as the AP accounts, through Citizens Bank.
Is that because transactions are not being recorded timely? Because usually the cash account would be higher.
Yeah.
Okay, so our payroll check's not being posted timely, and that's why there's an extended period where you have outstanding checks.
It's more, what I've seen the pattern of is when there's voids that are happening, or voids reissue there's transfers that aren't being made in and out, and they're not also being told to citizens, or it's just that they're not speaking. So we have a lot of activity that needs to be pulled in, transfers in and out to reflect the voids that have happened, and there are some outstanding checks that, as well, probably stale dated checks that we need to go through to see if that'll reduce that variance.
So you have to cancel out the credits. Is that what you need to do?
Yes.
All right. And you said you're up to what, January? Is that what you said?
We're up to January, yep. We're up to January with accounts receivable. We have the cash book recon, and we're working between December and January.
Is it foreseeable in the near future that all of the accounts will be reconciled more timely, say monthly or every other month? I mean, to do it on an annual basis for the year-end audit seems, I mean, it's voluminous, it's time-consuming, it's tedious, and I'm an accountant myself. I know these things, so it's easier to keep up with things than it is to let them snowball, and then it's almost insurmountable.
Yeah, typically, what we like to do, what I like to see in the towns, we like to get it month to month, and we like to have it by the close of the 10th. So the following month, there's no more activity that's posted in the general ledger. And then whatever differences were reconciled, preferably by the 15th, sometime depending on if it's May. Some of the larger months that you have a lot more transactions, it might be till the end of the following month. But usually within 30 days, it would be best, which is what I would recommend, cash book reconciliations be done.
So before you pass the baton to the next person, you'll have a reconciled account to the penny?
That is the
That's-
goal,
that's what-
depending on when this person gets hired, because if the person to be hired in 4 weeks, I don't see that happening.
4 weeks, okay.
I don't see that
But
happening.
this calendar year, you'll reconcile all cash accounts, make sure all activities recorded, make sure that the books are complete, accurate, nothing omitted from the books. It's usually omissions or duplications or just, You know, might even be geography, they posted to wrong accounts.
That is the ultimate
No.
goal. What we do though is identify the variances exactly as they are, from the point we took on going forward, and then work backwards to clean up. So we'll keep the books clean going forward, and then preferably take one account, clean that one account up going back. And if we get to clean up those two larger accounts, by then, that would be great, or at least reduce the variance that is currently there.
So you do the cutoffs, and then you account for the ins and the outs on that period of time, and then you freeze the variance.
Correct.
And if the variance changes, then something happened within that period of time. It shouldn't
Exactly.
move. You freeze it, you should drag it forward like a ball and chain.
Right, and ideally, if we're busy.
So it's a sin of the past, and you
Yeah.
have to zone in on it.
Yep, and if we can
But-
pick, we will slowly try and chip away at that variance.
Yeah.
I've been where I would hold the variance for a full year. I would identify all the variances, and at the end of the year, we would be able to clean up each one of those variances. Excuse me.
Oh, hey.
But identify exactly what they are. Not just say we're gonna do a credit and a debit. It would be, we're crediting this because of that.
You're not plugging anything.
Exactly, we're just.
And
it's
you're not gonna park it in a pending adjustment account.
No.
You're gonna go back and you're gonna identify it, you're gonna zone in on it, and
Exactly,
and
and we're gonna
fix-
narrow it down, and I
fix
mean,
it.
if it comes within a small amount, I'm not gonna go all the way back, but
Well,
if we
it's
come within a good variance. then we can
minutia,
talk.
under $1,000 or something, you know,
Yep, and then we talk to the auditors. and we-
immaterial.
Yep, and we show the auditors what we have, and we show them that we've held the variance, and ask them to give us the recommendation or the approval, not that we need the approval, but it's always good to talk to them. And then, you know, depending, maybe write it off.
The auditor said, I asked him about his materiality level in the audit. He said 150,000, and the variance was at 148. So, I mean, it's, you know, you're knocking on the door,
Yeah, yeah.
and 148's material to me. I think if, you know, you dropped it on the floor, everybody would bend over and pick it up. So, but you don't want to spend, you know, days and weeks and months looking for, you know, $100. It's not cost effective.
No, and that's
You
where I
know.
was saying, a lot of times there's patterns. People just happen to do the same thing over and over,
Right.
and I've pretty much identified the pattern that it has to do with the void. So if we can clear that up and see what that variance is at that point, it might not be worth us going back and looking any further.
Right. Okay, so there'll be some additional training and standard procedures so that you don't keep, you know, cloning errors. I mean, effectively is what's been done. Well,
Yeah, you
that's-
should be able to find the errors within the town isn't that large where you know, you have enough to be able to hone in on what it is. And if you're month to month, that's usually not an issue at all.
Okay. What else? Revenues, I mean, we've, on this board, have had discussions about collecting back taxes, and I heard what you said, and I agree with you. I mean, you have to assert your rights, or you waive your rights on the tax title, and the
Yes.
takings. So it's snooze, you lose, you can waive. So is there a short list of what time is of the essence that's coming up, that if we miss these, we miss them?
No, we
is
have a
it-
3-year window. Excuse me. So we are within our window to do it. I still would recommend trying to do it by the fall to make sure that we have the taxes put into tax title. You know, I am a strong proponent of trying to collect back taxes. It's not, in my mind, it's not a form of trying to go after a home. It's more about the communication of going to talking to people. It's sometimes that first step of working with them. Some people are scared. Some people are like, I owe 30,000. What am I going to do? But once we talk to them and explain to them, we're not here to take your home. We'll work with you. Let's get on a payment plan so we can at least start collecting the current taxes, make those up to date, and then work on the back taxes. Even if it's a small amount, what is your budget? What can you do? It's still generating revenue for the town. Everybody has to pay taxes, and these people aren't paying taxes where everybody else, but they're still getting the same benefits of owning a home in the town. So it's, again, not trying to be aggressive or mean, or we don't want to take their home, but we want them to talk to us, explain to us what's going on. What can we do for the future taxes? What can we do with your past taxes? And just create revenue for the town. You know, that's our job. We're just here to make sure that we have enough money to run the town.
Just one more question on taxes. Is that list expanding, or is it staying the same? So how are we at collecting revenue? We're tight on money from what I hear, some small deficit spending. But are we going backwards or are we going forward? Are we collecting revenue as bills come due? And it's not increasing the accounts receivable and the aged receivables over 30, 60, 90, or whatever? Or do you track that?
I don't have the current for May 1st. I can run that and give it to you for the next meeting. From what I can see, you guys have the same people on the same list. There's not a lot of new late tax people coming into tax title.
It's not expanding, it's static. It
is. You have a few. But
old
not-
history.
Yeah, you have a few, but it's not a big difference from year to year.
Okay, that's good to know. I mean,
Yeah.
things aren't getting worse.
Right, but that's why I, again, don't let, the more people know that we're not being aggressive, you don't want them to start following and start having that tax title list go up.
But we have time. If this is taken care of by the fall or in conjunction with hiring a new treasurer and a town administrator,
Yep.
then we have time to bring this all together.
Yes.
I mean,
Yep.
I think there was some hesitancy on the board to pursue those now. I'd like to just, send the bills out, give them the notice. Like, I agree with you, the approach is just stay current and then work on the arrearage,
Right.
if you can, so you don't compound your problem, doesn't snowball, and the damage is kind of done on the old stuff.
Yeah,
You know what I mean, with the penalties?
yes.
And then there's the statutory interest that compounds over time, but I don't think you add any more penalties to that, do you? Can you explain a little bit about the penalties and maybe the incentive for people, maybe paying the most recent bill and then working towards the arrearage? Is there a benefit to doing that in terms of saving you the demand payments and on notices?
So, the current bills, you would get your $15 demand, regular interest goes through. But on the older taxes, you're getting 16% interest. You have legal fees if we end up doing legal. If you don't pay your current taxes, you'll have advertising fees. You're going to have an instrument of taking, an instrument of redemption. Those are all the items that will lead, and they'll add up quickly while they're in tax title. So the quicker, and that's the other piece, is the quicker that they contact us, and if we choose to go with an attorney, then those fees will add up that they have to pay. But if they can contact us and they start working with us, those are taxes we would not necessarily put with tax attorneys. Those fees wouldn't be included in those. And if they pay their current, they wouldn't have the advertising fees, they wouldn't have the demand fees. So those are some of the additional fees that go along with it.
So if this wouldn't be pursued until the fall, is it fair to give people, some lead time on this, that they can save significant fees and not salt their wounds and compound their problems if they were proactive and come in and talk to you or
Yes.
someone else to say, what can you do?
Yep, the best thing is to
Save a
just-
lot of money.
Yeah, it would. Just come in and talk to us, see what we have for options, see what other things, I mean, there's so many things as well, to talk to the assessor, depending on what kind of abatements and exemptions that they offer. These are all types of things we kind of talk to them when they come in. Sometimes there's nothing we can do, but sometimes, it's worth the conversation.
It's a start, I think.
It is. And communication, really, I think that's the biggest key.
All right, thank you very much, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Bill, you got anything?
Well, I just came in, but let's see. My first question, I guess, if it hasn't been answered already, is I noticed we have another temp from your agency,
Yes.
and has it been discussed what the cost is on that?
It's the same as it was before with my contract. I'm one cost and then they're the second cost. It's the 2-tier.
And how many hours do you expect from him?
It just, while we're here during the day, it's been ranging between 8 and 10 hours. So it'd be
Week?
between, 16 to 20 hours for the both of us.
No, that's it for now. All I can think of.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, just echoing Jason, that everybody says you're very easy to work with, and they say you do a great job and easy to get along with.
Thank you.
No, don't thank me, thank them.
Thank them.
Dan took some of the bit away about the audit report, and that explained that. And you know, you're making a lot of sense when you talk about the downtime of maybe an hour. You know, even you go into a bank, the tellers get time to make sure their books are balanced. But just maybe if we do that, when we do that, if we could just put a sign on the door that between these times, and the reason why.
Right,
Because if somebody comes in, they're gonna get a little upset that
yeah.
you know, they wanna pay a bill and there's nobody there to do it, but it certainly makes sense.
Yep.
Now, on a tax title, our biggest tax delinquent property is probably about a third of our.
Yeah, it's a rather large piece.
What's your opinion on a forced bankruptcy on a property like that?
I would have to look into it. I know we had some discussion with like the building inspector. I typically like on the bigger parcels to get some feedback before we move forward with anything. When you have parcels you most likely will foreclose on, you want to understand what's going on with DEP, you want to understand building, wetlands, all of that, including police, fire, what are the issues with it, and then move from there. So before I can answer that, I would like to see more history on what the intent is for that property. I know that there are some grants and different things like that. I believe somebody has already looked into that, but there are grants out there for cleanup on certain types of buildings. I would kind of project to that before you foreclose on it. But again, I would talk to a tax title attorney because there are so many laws that might be out there that we're unaware of, little loopholes that we don't even know about. So that would be probably a tax title attorney as well as a regular attorney. Unfortunately, it does cost money, but that's just sitting out there. So it's something you might want to just clean up because it has to be cleaned up eventually because it's not going to go away. So you might want to invest a little bit in that, maybe not this budget, but next budget season, which goes
certainly-
back to like a capital plan, some type of capital plan.
Okay, you answered the question. I think I'm all set. Anybody got any other questions? Kathy, go ahead.
Just a little follow-up on, just a follow-up on, let me see. Dan's statement that we had some hesitancy to pursue tax title. That wasn't the case. It was just that it was put forward as another contracted cost, and we've already, this year, I know Mr. Selectman O'Neill just arrived, so as of November 5th, we had $71,260 left in the financial director's salary account, and then based on, you know, the work that's had to be done and what's maybe projected to be done, I believe we're going to have a deficit of at least maybe 35 to 40,000. I know the accountant is looking at maybe 50,000. So we are heading that way, and that's why I did ask you for the new year if we could cap it at the 1,500, because then it will not do that. So that was where the issue was. And on the Valley Screw property, just to follow up on the chairman, our prior chairman did go to a meeting in Boston with the federal cleanup. That's a federal-funded cleanup site. It's very unfortunate. It happened in the 80s. There was a pond that was used for swimming that was shut down. The well was shut down. And there are still test wells down this hill from that building. So the discussions that both previous Chairman Dunn, former Chairman Dunn, and former Chairman Wood had with the federal people seem to indicate that they won't give us like a clean bill of health. They'll basically say, we've done what we were going to do, but if you find anything under that building, that's going to be on you. And that is the biggest concern, I think, not to put on our taxpayers yet another burden, especially the taxpayers that were here in the 80s that lived through that, and most of them remember that, when the well was shut down and everybody was very concerned about their health and the health of their children. So that property does sit there. Unfortunately, some some kind of a deal was made with that owner, and I don't know that we have documents. I don't know at some point if we have enough personnel to go through the vault and look for them, but there was a deal made that allowed this owner to walk away from the town.
Yep. And that's why it goes back to before I make decisions, big decisions like that, is where I would contact, get information. I had actually spoken, I think, to the building inspector already, just a little bit about it, and you would take notes and document different, each file should have this information in there already, and if it doesn't already, it's something you want to start building on before you do the foreclosure process. You want to know the facts. Again, is it just a blight, or is there other issues in that? You want to talk to the police. Is it costing more money for the police? So sometimes they're not just the flat base amount that's there. There's other expenses that are hidden, or like you lose money for free cash every time, you have a high amount in tax title. So that's one reason why I like to foreclose, or at least push towards it.
Right.
Because although we're expending money, we actually get our money back because it increases our free cash, or we get actually some of our money back from the taxpayers who want to keep their property, and the money that we expended in fees and things that you spoke of, we get that money back, and that's revenue, which then increases our free cash. So, and again, talking about if it's a blight, if the police have to go there constantly, the fire have to go there, all those things are expenses that kind of offset.
I don't
Not-
think, they don't go to the building, it's,
Oh, no, I didn't say, I'm just saying in
Oh.
particular. That's why I kind of like to look
okay.
at each parcel,
Yes.
especially the bigger ones, before we foreclose and
Right.
ask, is this something we want to take on?
Correct.
Or is this something that maybe we don't, or
right,
or
and
go
just, I
forward?
don't know if you've met our town planner, Rebecca Oldham.
I think I've met her,
Okay,
yes.
so she is looking over the list to look at parcels that were left behind on old developments, and see if there's anything that can be gained from those, because obviously they're not contaminated, but
Right.
whether they're worth anything, this would be a great time, because obviously homes in Groveland are worth a lot of money right now. It's a
Yeah.
hot market, so.
And you want to get so what I do
Right.
typically is I would get a plan of the town. I joke, you color in the
Right.
different stages of you're at in tax title. You kind of view what parcels are around it. If it's near, say, a police station or fire station, you need a parking lot. I know not here, but or somewhere that other departments might want to utilize a property, or if there are a cluster of them, it's a selling feature. Like you said, if it's
Right, so-
property, and so you look at all those types of different
Correct.
avenues that you want to do.
Right, I just wanted you to know that Rebecca she has the list, and she is actively looking at where the parcels are.
That's great.
That are like you said, just pieces of land. But the Valley Screw property is just such a thorn in our side. It just,
Yeah.
the only thing I could suggest to the chairman is, I thought, someone mentioned that perhaps John Osborne was on the Well Pollution Committee and might still know, or where those records could be, or because they kept a lot of records. It was all paper back then, but they had a very good committee on this in town. And he might, if you wanted to reach out to him, maybe he could provide us with some ideas or information.
Yeah, we could check with him.
If he does have those, if we could get a copy so we can put it in the tax title folder as well. I like to keep all those types of records in the folder that we have in the tax office.
That's a good idea, yes.
You had something, Jason?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Bill?
Real quick, I might suggest talking to former Chairman Mike Wood, who I know spent literally years working with state and federal officials, along with our state senator and state representative,
Okay.
with numerous meetings, with no good conclusion for us.
Yeah.
So before I would discourage you spending any time at all on that property
Yeah.
with probably so many more important things on your plate to spend your time on and at an hourly rate, because I don't think that property is going anywhere anytime soon.
Okay.
It's just an environmental nightmare.
That's what it appears, yeah.
Dan?
Yeah, in terms of that particular property and the amount of money that is owed, I think at the very least, we should find out who's on title and whether or not that person or entity, what their status is in terms of solvency or insolvency. And I don't want to make any statements I don't know. But if there is a legal entity that holds title to that and they still exist, I think we have to know that first to see what our options are. My gut feeling is that we do not want to foreclose on it. We do not want title for that. Without a 100% assurance that it's clean and there are no cradle to grave liabilities attached to it. You don't want to be in the chain of title on a dirty property, whether it's 50 years ago or
Right.
now.
Right.
But there are other avenues. I asked the auditor here if it had any experience, I think,
And what we
or,
might,
about, is the thing, if, and I'm not saying this would be applicable in this instance, but it's something to pursue. If you don't want title to it, if suppose there was an entity that was insolvent, you can do an involuntary bankruptcy and potentially a trustee in U.S. bankruptcy would take control of the property so the town wouldn't have to. And whether or not that could be, sold at auction or not, have some corporate entity or LLC take title to it. Somebody might be able to make money with it and take a chance on it,
Right.
put it back on the tax rolls. I don't know if you could collect a rearage, depending on what the market value would be, if any. Certainly, you'd want to collect as much of the back taxes as possible. But I think it ought to be looked at whether or not there are any avenues, other alternatives to a tax taking and foreclosure, because I don't think that's the way to go, because no one is going to put their name on any document saying that they can see under the building. I've had some experience with 21Es, with some of my clients going through that process, and the cover your behind language in the report is more than the opinion on the report.
Yeah.
And no one can see what subsurface, and you can do borings and subsurface testing, and it's limited to your test sample,
Right.
So
what we might want to even just do is not even consider this, but look at some of the properties that are newer properties, or at least send the letters out, send a letter to everybody.
But-
That might generate some revenue, at least for the other pieces of the focus on the other ones,
I guess what I'm asking is, does anyone know if that property is abandoned? Does anyone know? I mean, is it just abandoned, or is it someone?
Talking Valley Screw?
Yeah, so is there an entity that owns it, and they,
No better expert on that than Mike Wood, I'm telling you. He
Can-
literally spent
can we bring
years.
them before us, so we're not 5 members of the board
But a short time
talking behind the
ago,
scenes? I mean, I just,
somebody associated with the ownership went up and did some boarding up on the building. It might have been 2 years ago.
somebody owns it, and they want it, and they have an interest in it. I mean, that's what I want to find out, and at some point in time, we should probably reach out and talk to them and
Ed,
see what's feasible and what isn't.
Go ahead.
from what I understood from attending the meetings was the property could only be used for a municipal building. There cannot be any beds there. And that's it. It can't be sold.
Could it be a parking lot? Could it be a park? Could you
Parking lot and park,
Could-
those are fine.
tear it
Or
down
municipal building.
and plant grass and have a nice park there or something?
No, just don't dig. But,
Just don't dig.
the other thing was the documents that I think that you're looking for in terms of the agreement between the owner, I believe that was set up and signed and done by the state. So I don't know that we have the copies of that because the state has it. And Mike and Bill both were trying to get it from the state and they don't have it. They couldn't find it.
But we did have a well pollution committee, and I believe John Osborne is one of the few people still alive who was on that. I don't know anyone else that might be still,
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, it's
definitely
worth
worth
an
checking, absolutely.
asking him, because that was a big deal. He would most likely remember what they had to do.
Well, we could get a note out to him to find out if he knows anything, whereabouts of any paperwork on that. Bill, you had something else?
No, I just wanted to catch your attention because Jason had.
No, I got it. Anybody else? You have anything else?
No, I think that's it. I think we've covered everything.
Oh, one more question if it wasn't asked. Will we get monthly,
Revenue reports.
well, expense reports, basically, budget versus actual?
So for expense reports, that will be Ellen. Ellen will give the expense reports. Revenue typically does come from the accountant, but it's more, we discussed that. I'm not sure where Ellen is at on the posting, the way the posting works is I enter, then Ellen verifies, and we go back and forth. So I'll have to ask what month she is in before a revenue report, and then she can still give you one, but I'm just not sure the date it'll be in.
Okay. All right,
Okay?
I'll wait for that,
Okay.
see where we go.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
well, if nobody's got any other questions, we do a motion to adjourn.
Make
Okay.
a motion to adjourn at
Oh,
5:55. Oh.
Before,
Oh, wait, how about the Juneteenth? Can we just vote that for the employees, Mr. Chairman?
Juneteenth is, I'm not sure we have a choice, it's a state holiday, and we already did, didn't we?
Right, but the town bylaw seems to say that it, technically, if it's on a Saturday, you would give them the Friday. However, in my going to call different department heads to ask about capital items, I kind of surveyed them, and they're all expecting to take Monday off. And where it's already Wednesday, a vote of the Board of Selectmen, I think, could say that this time Monday would be the holiday. Whereas the personnel bylaw says if the holiday falls on a Saturday, Friday is the day. So this is like the one time we'll deal with it except for another 7 years. But I just thought if the board's wishes were so, we could just
Well-
vote that this is what we're gonna do this first year.
Because they already kind of get Friday off anyways, right?
And they're already kind of anticipate, I think more than a few people thought it would be Monday.
Well,
They were hoping it would be Monday, let's face it.
isn't that why our meeting is Tuesday?
Yes, yes, so,
So, I mean, that would
I know,
be the
so-
giveaway right there.
so do we need to just kind of make a motion to say that this year, the Juneteenth holiday, the town hall will be closed on Monday? So moved?
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion on the floor, any other discussion, stand a second? None? All in favor? Yep, unanimous.
Reluctantly.
It's about to become a federal holiday, past the,
It passed the House, I think,
Yeah.
or the Senate.
and with no, past the House with no opposition.
One more, I don't know how heavy the agenda is for Monday,
Tuesday.
the Tuesday. The Groveland Day Committee asked if they could have 5 minutes on the agenda just to, I guess, make sure that they're good to go.
You have room on there for that?
Um,
Have
would
you
that-
posted it yet?
It was posted because Beth is out tomorrow. Would that be under public comment? Like, just to give us
No.
information?
We could do that under items not anticipated to come before the board.
Do I
we
need
can-
to have documents ready for that? Groveland Day?
I'll reach out to them and
Okay.
see, but
I
I'm
was-
not sure.
Here's a question. I thought that, well, yes, we post the meeting, we post the agenda, but then if something comes in, you can handwrite on the agenda.
We still have 48 hours, more than 48 hours.
Right, so I
Yeah,
think you
I
can
can-
handwrite
I can
it
amend
on
it.
the agenda.
Sure, she just
So they
won't-
don't have to wait till the
She just
bitter
won't
end.
be there on,
Yeah.
tomorrow.
But the
And I'm not sure
posted,
she'll be there
yeah.
Tuesday, so.
but we could just,
Oh, you can get it on there.
well, we can write on it, right? So that they could be an agenda item like in the front, so they don't
Yeah.
have to wait till the end of the meeting.
Yeah, if they take more than 5 minutes, I'll just cut them off and tell them they have to go.
At the door.
I'd like to see that happen. Okay, anything else? Nothing? Motion on the floor and a second to adjourn. Next meeting will be Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021. All in favor? Unanimous.
What time are we meeting on Tuesday?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. You,
Thanks, Sarah.